This is really frustrating to me in about a million different ways. Let's go to John Kennedy on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd. When we entered into this era of and it almost is hard to remember now, when there was some delineation of the just ability of Republicans to go on TV and just lie, and everybody knows that they're lying, right? Like the Kavanaugh hearings, for instance, when Kavanaugh said, we wrote that to that woman in our yearbook as an homage to her. It was out of respect. And now you're turning it into some bad thing. Like, right. Everybody in that room knew he was lying. His wife knew he was lying. Everybody knew they were lying. And one of the things that came up even when Mike Cernovich, sort of reinterpreted my tweet and got me fired temporarily from MSNBC. When everyone knew what that tweet said, because all English speakers and many people who don't speak English as a first language understand the concept of idioms and metaphors and satire and whatnot. The press, for years, allowed the Republican Party to spread lies. They were just much more dignified lies. If we cut taxes, revenue will go up because it will expand the economy in such a way that we'll actually get more revenue. That was a lie that everybody knew was a lie. Everybody knew it was a lie. The Benghazi hearings, they all knew that it was just a complete fabrication. Like they were just relentlessly pursuing nothing that existed. And because they allowed for these little sort of more dignified lies to pass through unfiltered, they were left completely without an ability to address the bigger lies, the more obvious lies. Here is a perfect example of this. Chuck Todd has allowed Republicans a narrative, and particularly the Meet the Press show was built on this notion of, I can't even remember his name now, he passed away. Tim Russert's whole thing was, I don't push back. I just get everybody on the record. And then somehow history takes care of itself. That was the theory of that show. And because they did that, because despite the fact that there are millions upon millions of dollars spent behind this set with people there on computers to determine facts, right? Like that's what a news organization does. Despite that, they would never call out these lies. And so now they lost the muscle, to the extent that they ever had it, to call them out. And so watch this. Like all they can be now is flabbergasted and just in awe.
By intelligence officials, are you at all concerned you're doing?
Pause it. I'm sorry. This is Senator John Kennedy, who we played the clips of him last week, saying that Ukraine interfered in the election as well.
By intelligence officials, are you at all concerned you're doing Russian intelligence work here?
I was not briefed.
You didn't attend that briefing?
And listen, Dr.
You didn't attend the briefing on that?
And Dr.
Okay.
I wasn't briefed. Dr. Hill is entitled to her opinion. But when the Economist magazine...
When does opinion become fact? Does 17 intelligence services saying it? Does every Western intelligence ally saying Russia did this? I'm just sort of confused. At what point is it no longer an opinion for you?
I don't think it's an opinion. I think it's a fact. I believe the reporting by the Politico magazine.
You just said Fiona Hill. You just said Fiona Hill gave an opinion.
I believe the report. I believe the reporting by the Financial Times. I believe the reporting by the Washington Examiner. You should read the articles, Chuck. They're very well documented. And I believe that a Ukrainian district court in December of 2018 slapped down several Ukrainian officials for meddling in our election as a violation of Ukrainian law. Now, I didn't report those facts. Reputable journalists reported those facts. Does that mean that the Ukrainian leaders were more aggressive than Russia? No, Russia was very aggressive, and they're much more sophisticated. But the fact that Russia was so aggressive does not exclude the fact that President Poroshenko actively worked for Secretary Clinton. Now, if I'm wrong, and if
actively
all these
worked for
journalists are
Secretary.
wrong,
I mean, my goodness, wait a minute, Senator Kennedy, you now have the president of Ukraine saying he actively worked for the Democratic nominee for president. I mean, now come on. I mean, I got to put up. You realize the only other person selling this argument outside the United States is this man, Vladimir Putin. This is what he said on November 20th. Thank God nobody is accusing us anymore of interfering in U.S. elections. Now they're accusing Ukraine. Well, let them sort this out among themselves. You just accused a former president of Ukraine. You've done exactly what the Russian operation is trying to get American politicians to do. Are you at all concerned that you've been duped?
no.
See, this is what's like, why, again, this is like, why is Chuck Todd outsourcing this by some association with Vladimir Putin? Like, that doesn't describe anything. What he should say is, there's not a shred of evidence to the charge that the Ukrainian president was actively helping Hillary Clinton. And in fact, every part of that story that you mentioned, the Politico story, has fallen apart. The John Solomon story has fallen apart from the Hill. The Washington Examiner story, these are all fallen apart. There's no truth to this. There was pressure on these people to say these things, and they've recanted. This was all laid out in the testimony. Why can't they do this? Why is the closest they can come to just sort of like farming this out? Like, well, you sound like Russian. So what? That doesn't disprove anything. There is, you can disprove these things. There is a lack of evidence. He's literally citing 3 different stories over the course of 4 years.
This reminds me about the whole, I think, unwillingness to face that Russia, for instance, wanted Trump to win over Hillary. And it wasn't just about chaos, right? Like, the Republicans have interests that align to a certain degree.
Well, I'm not even convinced that that's the case. I mean, I think they wanted chaos. I think they wanted to raise some doubts about the validity of the election and whatnot. I don't know that they could have ever imagined that Donald Trump was going to win. They may have said, like, this is,